They have a two-headed frog in a formaldehyde jar at the fishery. At least they used to all my life.
And you are?
Oh, I'm park overall, and I work with Linda, and they call me and Linda and Barbara and Sue the Wall of Women.
And why do they do that?
Because NFS is a legendary rattle trap, and we, by God, did something about it, and we got it fixed and changed and caused a lot of trouble. We showed up at the meetings, they had to bring in a special team, and we mean business. This place is it is known as the worst place at NRC, and they'll tell you that. You can call the legal department and say, tell me about NRC. Oh, that's what you'll get. Believe me, this is the worst. It's a hillbilly, Appalachian, people wanted to work at the time. Did you know that the town actually paid them to come in here 65 years ago? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they wanted jobs. And we've got a cancer rate that Linda has clocked as a third higher than the rest of the state. And I know everybody downstream is dying of really rare stuff.
Such as?
There was a baby born with the rarest tumors they'd ever seen. That was about 5 years ago. Alvin Higgins' daughter was born with no female organs. None. So she was not able to, she didn't know to, and he was a handyman, a groundsman, a maintenance man. So he brought all that home with him because, remember, we didn't have the EPA till 1975 or 9. There were no rules before then. And he's chased a ball of mercury through the system that got away. I mean, he can tell you about leaks and he has. And we took this we wrote the Justice Department, Rick Parrish of Southern Environmental Law, and the Justice Department never responded.
So the Wall of Women have
caused trouble.
Yeah.
Particularly this one. She's the scientist and the analyst.
Uh-huh.
I'm just an economist.
And I'm the actress mouthpiece. I'm just the actress mouthpiece. But Sue's 300-page list of violations is one of the most compelling documents involved here. And I still maintain if we took that list to the right people, we could get prosecutions because it shows a pattern of abuse over 60 years. A big pattern of abuse. They closed down the school because suddenly the parking lot fell through. Now plutonium would eat through that, you understand? They had filled the hole and blocked everything off before Linda arrived, and Linda arrived early. And there was no way to test it or anything, but they did close the school. I think this tells you all you need to know. It's not that we don't have karst topography. This was different. It was the school. And I think that's plutonium. We have on tape an NRC official saying there is some evidence of a plutonium plume. And that is a quote, and that's in the groundwater.
How can we get a copy of this quote?
Linda, who's got the tapes? Trudy?
Trudy has them.
Trudy has them.
Yeah, we've got, that's another member of the Wall of Women.
The Wall of Women.
Trudy
She's
Wall.
the good-looking one.
Yeah, she's a downstreamer and has been working on NFS a long time, too.
Yeah, did I leave Trudy out? Forgive me. There's 4 or 5 of us, and we mean business. Trudy has a way with words and handling the mails. Just as an interesting side note, when one of these Norwegians was president of the company, he got fired, I believe. I forget what happened. Yeah. That's a few years ago, 8 years, 7. When he came and sat behind Trudy, he knocked her in the head. He knocked her in the head. He knocked her in the head. And then the vice president lent his laptop to someone at work, and it was full of hardcore child porn. So he was sent to the pen for 5 years. because Judge Greer thought he'd never do it again. Right. And that was a blow for his wife. And I mean, I liked the guy, all right. I did, but Trudy felt it. Trudy felt it. I didn't feel it. And I usually have better instincts than that. What I'm telling you is we're dealing with thugs. We're dealing with thugs and have been for 50, 60 years. What are we at now? 62 years? 57, 1957 is when it came.
Yeah.
So 60 years. And it's got a legend that's just, I mean, Alvin took me across the freeway and we went down where the outflow pipe is, which was really funny because there was a buck prints and the females, and he explained to me all this buck and female stuff of deer, and I was not in the know, you know. It was so exciting. Anyway, he showed me where it all comes out, and he said from the laundry room and the this and the that and all of that, and while we were there, 4 kayaks went by because this is a river rafting, and as Bobby C. said, oh hell, park a canoer just wants to be able to see his oar in the water. But you can't see or smell this, and that's what Alvin has always said. And until people can smell it or see it or feel it, they ignore it. And this is Appalachia, and they have ignored it.
Well, Appalachia has lived with coal mining for a long time. The people are sort of, I think, feel helpless and hopeless about doing anything about any of this stuff.
Well,
don't
particularly
they?
with this president, that has really put a pall over the whole earth, as it were. The coal mining is so far removed from me. It's Virginia and West Virginia, so I deal with issues in the area. And this one and the other one is in Greenville, and it's a explosives plant for mountaintop removal. And by God, me and Ann have kept that place from opening up. They can't get open, and it's 8 years, coming up on 8 years.
How did you manage that?
Ann Harris is brilliant. You can look her up. She'll tell you. She's 77 years old. She's beat TVA in a court of law 6 times, and she's cute, like a rattlesnake.
Okay, where are we?
Where are we, Linda?
We're on close to Stalling Lane, and we're looking at NFS. And one thing that we can see from this vantage point is these little houses that are
All
along here, and those short smokestacks. These stacks, when they're spewing out their poisons, and there's again the same poisons that they pour into the river, the same mix of radioactive isotopes and also dozens and dozens of chemicals, are able to drift right into people's kitchens and living rooms and bedrooms.
It's been this way.
And it was not too far from where we are now, where the baby who was born
With all that.
cancer lived.
Rare. We've got a lot of pretty women in their 50s dying of, what's it called, Linda? Blood disorder.
Leukemia?
No, very
Could you go right
very
first?
specific. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda.
That's all right. The security gate will be on our right side. You can see the flags.
Look at the
which
stay out of here, people stay out.
It's a unionized plant, and that's one of the reasons why it is fiercely protected, even by some of the unionized workers.
Go.
Because this is one of the few plumbing
Stop,
and
please.
steel workers
I'm trying.
plants
Go.
that are in this area.
What's interesting is they're decommissioning 3 sites and saying we can add more because we're decommissioning. What? You know, that's how I look at it. I didn't realize. This has changed, Linda. It's bigger.
Has, yes.
It's much bigger.
Well,
and
they demolished. What they did is they demolished the homes that were right on their fence
That's
line.
right.
They bought the property, They took down the houses. In some cases, they forced out.
We got chased out. We were filming a documentary, and finally, after 15 minutes, a guard came. We snuck up on the Plutonium building under a bridge crossing, and there was a dead rat in that water. And you can't possibly tell me dead rats go and die in creeks. It was right by the Plutonium building.
And what were you saying, Linda?
That we'll be coming up to the Plutonium building down
turn
over
left?
there.
You want to turn left?
Where?
Linda?
Yeah, turn left. You just can see the white tent, and it's still being decommissioned after being dormant for about 40 years.
On a river.
And it's still putting out plutonium into the air and water.
So do you know the processing, what it is that they do?
They put in the highly enriched uranium program. For all this was God America apple pie and nuclear submarine fuel. But then, boom, they suddenly turned into a processor, and what they say is to blend down the world's radioactive stuff for fuel for nuclear power plants. And as I said, Ann says it doesn't really work that way. So they were supposed to get rid of all this stuff after the war, and they keep finding new ways to look at these sad little homes. Now look at this.
Yeah. Are these workers there?
Here's we can get up
Some
here.
cases.
We can get up here, and you can, if you don't mind the rain, you can get up here and look down on the plant. It's a good time because it's winter. Which road, Linda?
Through the cemetery.
Yeah.
Very appropriate. How many of these
Yes,
people had
indeed.
cancer?
Oh, God only knows. You see,
There was a wonderful woman, I think she's still with us. Her name is Willa Erwin, who went down her street and asked all her neighbors.
Contact information for Willa Early.
Oh gosh.
how do you do
Eva,
this?
I just go
You
straight.
can
yeah.
look down here.
And Willa took, did a door-to-door survey in her neighborhood. It's called Washington Street. See, the neighborhood that
There we
NFS was
blow.
plunked
There
down
we
into
blow.
existed prior to the company. So this is a really old Appalachian town. And
In a narrow valley.
yes, in the
Yeah.
valley. And every third house had either a cancer victim or a cancer survivor.
Oh my. Has anybody explained to you what it is that they do in those buildings?
The process is called the blended low enriched uranium. So what they did was they take low and blend it to high and blend it to low.
And how do they
Allegedly.
do that? How do
Oh,
they
I
do that?
don't
You don't
ask
know. They don't
me.
tell you that.
Law, no, that'd be what disqualified information. That's top secret. You know, there was a great story about, and I called the sheriff at the time, who turned out to be a dirty sheriff, as in criminal, but I liked him. But anyway, I said, I heard that there was terrorists up here the morning of 9/11, and he said, we don't know that part, but they were dark-skinned, and they left so quickly, they left all of their belongings in the hotel. Linda will verify that. That's a true story. And the sheriff said so. She'll remember his name, Kent something.
Of course, if he was dirty.
Well, I don't think he would have lied to me about it, but, you know, this is Appalachia. Who knows why anybody does anything? They'll do it for money, you know, like anywhere else, though.
Out of 42 houses on the street, there were
27 cancers.
something like 27 cancers, right? Maybe you already told Ellen that as a result of that work, we got the ATSDR to come.
Yes, I did.
And so the ATSDR did a public health assessment and they determined that there were a number of chemicals, and that they refused to study the radioactive
They said they wouldn't
contamination.
study anything that had an IUM in it, and they lied. They lied to us because they do. I couldn't believe the ATSD. And Barbara has a letter. You should take her to Barbara's where the letter, Barbara will have the letter, and it says, from the head of the ATSDR, which is a part of CDC, said to her, I'm sure you understand the reason for this place. It's in the letter.
Around here, right around where we just passed, there used to be a spring house. And it was called Banner Hill Spring. And the people, this road is called Banner Hill Road. And people were used to coming to that spring to collect water, drinking water. That spring became so contaminated, it was one of the issues that the workers brought up to then Congressman Markey, and it's documented in the hearing file how contaminated that water was. Well, we had presented the hearing file to the ATSDR, and we said, look, how could you say that you can't prove any pathways when we've got a spring house that's used by the public?
Where do I go,
That's
Linda?
go straight into right underneath the railroad overpass, then turn right. When you've got a spring house that's been contaminated with plutonium, documented by the workers who testified before Congress, and that spring house was accessible to the public for years until finally NFS fenced it off, and it was no longer used. So finally, the result of the ATSDR's final report was that it was a public. Was a public health hazard. NFS was a public health hazard.
Empty.
One of the sources over in the wetlands along the old river channel over here had a spring, and Alvin Higgins, who Park told you about, who worked as a all-round maintenance man and now works as a plumber in Erwin and all of this area, had brought us to this spring. And these are the boxcars that carry nuclear waste, and they are flagged. You can see the.
Ooh, it says radioactive right on
You
it.
can see the radiation side.
There's a great history here, and 11 pounds of uranium turned up missing, and there had to be an audit. And I think ultimately, Linda, was it 21 pounds was really missing, but they said it was an accounting error. Alvin said it walked out of here in a briefcase. And I said, where did it go? And he said, it went north, ma'am.
And I heard another story from another worker years and years ago who called me and said, I used to work over there, and I know the guy who stole some uranium during a strike. During a strike, when the company had brought in scabs, the union workers, were justifiably pissed.
Is that a hairbrush?
So what they did was take some highly enriched uranium, brought it home. Then there was an inventory done at the plant. They was like, "Oh my God, we're missing enough uranium to make a bomb." All hell broke loose. The national media came, helicopters flying all over the place, trying to find the uranium. They then finally, after jerking the company around for a few days, the same culprit returned the uranium, so that just to show we can do this.
Oh.
You know, we'll do this to you. And it was in retribution, really, for stealing their jobs during a justified health and safety strike.
Wow.
So,
We have footage of that strike.
we have footage of the plant going up in
And they're
flames.
mooning. They're coming in the bus just a mooning. Yeah.
Now, where we are here is that pond over that I was telling you about, Ellen, that's down there, is where, when the dye trace was done after the sinkhole opened next to the school, and the engineers from the highway department put in the dye.
Yeah, I forgot.
The dye ended up showing up in that pond.
Yeah.
And that's on the other side of Nuclear Fuel Services, easily a mile away from the school. And so it's an indication of the karst topography. And when this company says that the groundwater, that these plumes are contained, and that they are, and now that they've so-called remediated their waste ponds, they want us to believe that everything's been cleaned up, and it's just it's bullshit.
Well, she's told you that Linda and I separately found highly enriched uranium, as I recall, 234, 236, and 238, all the way. She found it all the way to the French Broad. I found it on my property. And I'm 20 miles as the crow flies.
From
Here, I'm on the river.
you're on the river.
Yeah. So,
Does it flood?
I'm up on a hill. But it has, but you see, we all drink from this river. That's the main, but not only the livestock, but people. Mm-hmm. We have a Greenville water intake. There's a Jonesboro, Glen Hills, Chucky, and I've got the paperwork somewhere where I counted up how many people are drinking this water, and I think it was 60,000 plus are drinking it by family. You know, if you do all that.
So I'm drinking the water out of this cup that I filled at your... No.
Because ours is in a well.
Okay.
And
I
we've
wouldn't
had
be
it tested.
comforted by that.
We've had it tested. We have, you know what? One of the benefits to this project has been that we have done a soil core at my house. We've tested the well water at my house, and fortunately we are far enough away. We're on the other side of Embry Mountain from Erwin, so even though we're in the Nolichucky watershed, our water is okay at our house. But the folks who drink city water, we know because we tested at an unfiltered tap in Greenville. Just on a random, what we did was we did a random sampling over the course of a month, every third or second day, whenever the person wanted to collect the sample, out of the tap, a kitchen tap, city water of Greenville. One of those samples showed high enriched uranium out of 10 or a dozen that were collected for the month.
Also, all of the wells around here were closed years ago, except Linda and I go test the water at this really nice man's house. His sister had a full-blown fire kiln. I was very impressed. He had beautiful property, but it's less than a mile from here, and he was still on well water. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. They went all the way both ways and then stopped. They stopped. So as you go this way, you're going over to Asheville, so that it becomes fewer and fewer people. But you go that way, you got a lot of people.
Let's go up to the fish hatchery.
If you cross this bridge and go, you'll come to a light pole. It's sort of like out of Narnia. There's a light pole. And you'd go across from that light pole, across that freeway, and there's the pipe running right into the river. Early on, when we began to attend every meeting, this is the story about Prudy. Prudy decided we needed a filmographer. That's why we got so many films. But in the beginning, we had a typographer, a stenographer. And I got her out of the phone book. She came in about 6 foot tall in $1,000 boots. And at the end of it, I was so upset, I just stood up and I said, I need a drink. And the policeman over here said, Park, there ain't nowhere in town, we're gonna let you go. And I said, what? And he said, there's nowhere you'd want to go. And the girl said, this long, tall drink of water said, you mean I can come to this town and get radiated, but I can't get a drink?
The plant is up there.
You can still see the boxcars with the nuclear waste.
Yep.
Underneath the public road to Industrial Park is buried a pipe. It comes underneath this creek bed.
It goes underneath and straight across, and it's hanging out over the river.
And what is it that's
It's
coming?
the pipe.
The pipe.
And it's coming from the laundry, and Alvin could give you the exact places that it's coming from. All radioactive stuff is going straight into a pipe, straight out of here into a pipe that's going straight into the river.
from the plant.
Yes.
Liquid nuclear waste.
Yes.
From the laundry where they
Yes.
wash
And-
the contaminated
yes.
clothes.
And other
Also
places.
and some of the processes too. Some of the processes. And some of the processes directly flowed into, now years ago, but certainly the runoff all flows directly into this creek. And then this creek flows into the Nolichucky. So the Nolichucky gets hammered by the
there you go.
direct outfall into the river. It gets
Hammered.
it gets hammered by direct outfall into the creeks that flow into it. And also there's the airborne deposition. When we analyzed the soil up in the cemetery where we were before, we found, because of the airborne deposition, plutonium in that ground. The ATSDR puts out something called Tox Facts, and this is precious. The public needs to read these. They have one on plutonium, and it says, if you know that plutonium is being released in your area, you should leave. This is the same government that, on the other hand, says it's only emitting a little plutonium. It's only discharging a little.
It's just a little
Just
foam.
a little bit.
Foam's illegal, but it's just a little.